Okay, so we will start with the final topic. In fact, it is actually the continuation of social system only. So yesterday we have discussed about social system. So what we discussed is if the actions are oriented towards others and are in a state of mutual reciprocity, there will be social interaction, and this social interaction will result into social system, but there are certain conditions which has to be satisfied, that are goals, and then norms and values, and then boundary. So we have seen the technical definition, and also we have seen the 6 conditions which we have already done yesterday, and then we have discussed about mechanism equilibrium phase and requisite functionalism phase. Okay, so these two phases he explained the theory of social system and we developed that. And this is the towards the end we need to discuss cybernetic hierarchy of control also when we discuss about social system. So when we discuss about cybernetic hierarchy of control, what Parsons says is, so the 4 action systems that we have discussed, like personality system, organismic system, cultural system, and then social system, right? These 4 system: cultural system, social system, personality system, organismic system. These are the 4 action systems. So cultural system, social system, organismic system, and also personality system. So again, what he says is these action systems are not isolated. They are in continuous exchange. So there is a continuous interaction which is happening between each system, like in terms of different exchanges, in the form of exchanges. So here these are not isolated. There is a continuous interaction between each of them in terms of exchanges. Now what they exchange? These exchange are of 2 types. So 2 types of exchanges are there, and this takes place in a particular hierarchy, in a particular order. This will happen. Okay, and the 2 exchanges are energy exchange and also information exchange. So these 4 action systems are in interaction always in the form of exchanges, that is energy exchange and information exchange. Now what do you mean by energy exchange? Energy is actually the motivation or the internal aspect of the system which motivate it to work. So it is the motivation or the internal aspect of the system. Now when it comes to information, it basically refers to the ideas on the basis of which the system work. Okay, so cultural system is actually the source of information. So when we talk about cultural system, that is the source of information. So cultural system is actually the source of information, and organismic system is actually the source of energy. So what I'm saying here is the action systems that we have discussed, the cultural system, social system, organismic system, and personality system, they are not isolated. They are in continuous interaction with each other. They keep on interacting with each other. The interaction takes place in 2 forms, or that can be in the form of exchanges. 2 types of exchanges: energy exchange and information exchange. And what do you mean by energy? Energy is nothing but the motivation or the internal aspect on the basis of which the system work. Information refers to the ideas, the norms, etc. Okay, so the information means ideas on the basis of which the system work, and this is in a particular hierarchical order. As I have told you, cultural system is the source of information. So information will flow from cultural system in this order. Also, organismic system is the source of energy, so energy will flow from organismic system in this order. So this is something which is a hierarchy, and this has to be maintained, and that's why the word cybernetic hierarchy of control. This energy flow and information flow is in a particular hierarchy. Now the point here is, in case if there is any break in the flow, okay, or in case if there is a break in the hierarchy, then what will happen? The equilibrium break. So how the equilibrium is maintained? Equilibrium is maintained in terms of energy flow, information flow. So if there is a break or if there is a problem with respect to energy flow or information flow or any break in any of this, then what will happen? The mechanism, this equilibrium break. Now when equilibrium break, what will happen? This is what we have discussed yesterday. Specific mechanism. What is moving equilibrium? There are specific mechanism. They fulfill certain needs and will bring society in equilibrium. Now here what I am saying is, if there is a problem with respect to the energy flow or information flow, what will happen? The equilibrium break. Equilibrium break means there will be a disturbance. That is what I mean by equilibrium break. So the feedback will be given and the various mechanisms will act again, fulfill the need and bring back equilibrium. So according to Parson, what is social change? If the question is about social change, still you can explain this, because your 10th chapter, chapter 10 of paper 1 is related to social change. So this is the social change according to Parson. If there is a disturbance, this is what social change. So feedback will be given, specific mechanisms will bring back the equilibrium again. So that change will be temporary. Okay, so this is how we explain social change by using cybernetic hierarchy of control. So if there is a break in the equilibrium, there will be social change. So that is the social change according to Parson. So chapter 10, social change, we don't want to discuss separately the theories. The first topic is theories of social change. In fact, we have already discussed about Marxian theory of social change. What is that? Mode of production. That I am not going to discuss under chapter 10 again. Durkheim theory of social change, we have discussed in terms of mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. That again we don't discuss there. Weber's theory of social change we have seen in the theory Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism, how social change happened, how capitalism emerged. Parsons' idea about social change is what you can see here in terms of cybernetic hierarchy of control. So cultural system is the source of information, the information flow from cultural system, energy flow from organismic system. Now let's just go through this. So another dimension of a system theory is cybernetic hierarchy of control. So if the question is about social system, whether it is 10 marker or 20 marker, even if it is 10 marker, briefly 1 or 2 line you have to mention about cybernetic hierarchy of control. Then only the question is complete. It's a part of social system. Action systems are not isolated but in a continuous interaction with each other in the form of exchanges. Two types of exchanges takes place in a particular hierarchy. They are energy exchanges and information exchanges. So energy exchange from where? From the organismic system. Information exchange from where? From the cultural system. So energy refers to the motivation or the internal aspect of the system which motivate the system to work. We have discussed it. Information refers to the ideas on the basis of which the system works. Parsons consider cultural system as the source of information and organismic system as the source of energy. So you can show this diagram, you can draw exactly like this, and the flow takes place in a particular direction. So if there is a change in the direction, then there will be a problem. So the balance between the two, what is that? Energy flow and information flow is very crucial for the survival of the system. So if the balance between the information flow and energy flow is disturbed, what will happen? There will be a break in equilibrium. So when there is a break in equilibrium, what will happen? The feedback will be given and the specific mechanisms will act again, fulfill the needs and bring equilibrium, like what we have discussed. And again, if there is a disturbance, the feedback will be given. So you need to draw two diagrams here. This diagram that we have discussed yesterday in the when we discussed about the theory of social system, and this flow also you need to show. So this result in social change. So I hope you understood. This is the concept of social change according to Parson. So if you see chapter 10, you will be seeing the first topic as theories of social change. And the beauty is that if you do thinkers very well, there is no need to separately prepare for these topics. Like if you see the chapter of religion, again you will see first topic is theories of religion. I am not going to discuss the theories of religion over there again, because we have already discussed about Durkheim theory of religion. What is that? We have discussed that totemic religion, the causal functional explanation of religion, etc. Weber's theory of religion we have discussed. right? Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism. Marx theory of religion we have discussed briefly in terms of opium of masses. Okay, it's a part of superstructure, and all this we have done. So this is how you need to integrate all chapters and all theories with thinkers, and that's the reason why I'm telling you, if you're strong in thinkers, 80% of the syllabus will get done automatically, and everything is interconnected. Thus, Parsons' functional theory is a theory of system and cybernetic hierarchy of control is known as his master analytical framework or grand theory or generalized theory. So if the question is about his master analytical framework, you have to write both grand theory, generalized theory. It comprises both. Okay. Now, so this is what a quick recap of what we have done. We have discussed about social action. So any act consciously performed a social action with certain conditions. We have discussed about 4 conditions, and then we have discussed about 2 orientation. What are they? Motivational orientation and value orientation. And then we have discussed about ideal types of action like instrumental action, then expressive action, and then moral action. We compared it with Weber also, and then we have discussed about pattern variables in terms of dilemmas that the individual face while performing the action, whether to choose motivational orientation or value orientation, and we are very much clear with all these concepts. I don't think that any one of you will have to face any problem with respect to this. Then we have discussed about social interaction. What is that? Actions. If action is oriented towards others and are in a state of mutual reciprocity, then interaction will take place. This interaction will lead to social system. When some conditions are there, what are they? Goal has to be there, norms and values, and then abstract boundary around them. So we have discussed about the definition of social system, that big definition which was given by Parson. You can write that, or the definition which I have given to you, which is derived from that particular definition, you can write that also. Both are fine. And the 6 conditions that we have discussed, you can write. Functional theory that we have seen in 2 phases, mechanism equilibrium phase, and also functional, or what is that? Requisite functionalism phase. There we have discussed about AGIL model, and mechanism equilibrium phase we have discussed about moving equilibrium. Okay, so all these moving equilibrium can be a separate question, so you have enough content, you draw the diagram. AGIL model can be a separate question, and we have discussed about interconnections and everything. Okay, and then we have also discussed about this. After discussing social action, I have told you actions will never occur in isolation but in constellation, and constellation of action is what? Action system. And we have discussed about 4 different types of action systems like cultural system, social system, personality system, organismic system. Okay, and towards the end we discussed about cybernetic hierarchy of control also. So this is what we have done in Parson. So that's about Parson. It is very simple, just that people used to say that Parson is difficult, and other people who listen to that will believe that Parson is difficult. Parson is actually not difficult. If you stick to the syllabus and whatever is given to you, if you're studying that and your understanding is so good, and if you get any question from Parson, it's a must attempt question. For example, if you get a question on Parson theory of social action, what all things you will write here? You will have to, if you number this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if the question is about Parson's theory of social action, what all things you need to write here? You have to write this more. That's where you're talking about action. But at the same time, you need to write briefly about constellation of action and action system. Then only that answer is going to complete. So if the question is about social action, you have to start with action, mention about Weber's concept of action also, that you can explain while writing the ideal types. Then write about this, these 2 in brief. So write 1, you can elaborate, 4, 5 in brief you need to write. That's how you need to write theory of social action. What about theory of social system? If the question is about theory of social system, this 1 again, 2, 3, 4, 5. If the question is about social system, then start with social action, briefly mention about social action, because we understood, right? Action, there should be orientation, there should be reciprocity, there should be interaction, then only we can come to social system. So once you understood that, briefly mention about this 1 and then 2 and 3 in detail you need to discuss. That is how you need to, and also towards the end you need to discuss about the cybernetic hierarchy of control. So that is how you need to answer if the question is about social system. But if it is 10 marker, just jump onto social system and then briefly cybernetic hierarchy of control. If it is 20 marker, write all the 3. But this should be in brief. Now if the question is about action system, okay, then write 1, 4, 5. These 3 in in a balanced form you can write if the question is about action system. And these are the 3 questions that anyone can ever ask from this particular chapter. Otherwise, from this, within this, you can expect what all questions. You can expect this ideal types, this can be a question. You can expect pattern variable, this can be a question. Okay, and you can, from functional theory, you can expect moving equilibrium, that can be a question. AGIL model, that can be a question. And yesterday we have discussed about AGIL model of university, like that. And then cybernetic hierarchy of control, that can be a question. But you have content for everything. There is no need to face any problem with this particular thinker now. Okay. So now we have to go with the critical analysis as we always do. First, what we will do, we will go for the contribution, and then we will go for criticism, and then we will go for relevance. So if the question is asked about critical analysis, so how the structure you will follow, you will write introduction first, and then if it is social system, you will write the theory, and then you will follow the CCR, right? Contribution, criticism, relevance. So I'll give you the same here and it's done with that. Okay, any doubt from here, this discussion today? So critical analysis. It's very easy to criticize Parson because you can simply say you didn't understood anything, and that is a problem with everyone. Okay, so very vague approach. That is the most important criticism you can say. And Parson is giving too much circular arguments. What is that circular argument means? If you remember yesterday we have discussed about okay, now what do you mean by circular argument? I have told you yesterday in the context of AGIL model, in the context of society, who's satisfying the adaptation condition? It is the economic system, right? Then I've told you economic system is a system which in turn have further adaptation, goal attainment, integration, latency requirement, which in turn again will have this, that is what you mean by circular arguments. Okay, so that is what you write as illegitimate tautology. And he is also facing the problem of illegitimate teleology, which we have already discussed under Parson. That means he is not separating cause and function. Can you see any separation of cause and function? No, right? So all these you can write. Parson's theories are known for integrating various perspectives, approaches, and discipline. Parson combined micro and macro approach. His understanding of macro system is drawn from the micro actions. Thus, he considered micro and macro as the same part of reality. Parson modified over Weber in his theory of social action. We know how he modified over Weber, right? Any doubt here? No need to have. Even in the definition you can see, in terms of value orientation and motivational orientation you can see, in terms of ideal type also you can explain that. So that if this question is asked, it's again a must attempt question. Any question from Parson?